Here's a fact that will make you uncomfortable. If you gave a poor person $10,000 today, studies show that within a few years, most of that money would be gone. And if you took $10,000 away from a wealthy person, most of the time, they'd earn it back. This isn't about intelligence. It's not about laziness. It's not even really about money. It's about something happening inside the brain that nobody talks about. In 2013, a group of Princeton researchers published one of the most striking psychology studies of the decade. They didn't study people in a lab. They went to a mall in New Jersey and found ordinary Americans, some with comfortable incomes, some living paycheck to paycheck. They gave everyone the same cognitive tests, simple puzzles, logic problems, memory tasks, and what they found shocked the entire scientific community. People who were currently worried about money, people under financial stress, scored significantly lower on every cognitive test. Not because they were less intelligent, but because financial stress was consuming so much of their mental bandwidth that there was almost nothing left for anything else. The researchers called it the cognitive tax of poverty. And once you understand it, the whole conversation about wealth and poverty changes completely. Think of your brain like a computer. It has a certain amount of RAM, mental processing power, available at any given time. Now imagine that 70% of that RAM is constantly running one program. How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to feed my family? What if I lose my job? What's left for everything else? Barely anything. This creates what researchers Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir call a scarcity mindset. When you don't have enough of something, money, time, food, your brain locks in on that scarcity. It becomes a tunnel. Inside the tunnel, you can see one thing very clearly: the immediate problem in front of you. But you completely lose sight of everything outside that tunnel: long-term planning, creative thinking, opportunity. This is why someone who is broke might take a high-interest payday loan, not because they're stupid, but because inside the tunnel, $500 today feels more real than $1,500 in debt next month. The tunnel makes the future feel less real than the present. Here's something wild about the human brain. If I offered you $100 today or $120 in 2 weeks, most people take the $100 now. That's irrational. $120 is objectively better. But your brain doesn't experience time linearly. It experiences the present moment as intensely real and the future as vague and uncertain. Economists call this temporal discounting, the tendency to value immediate rewards far more than future ones. Now here's where it gets interesting. Studies show that this bias is significantly stronger in people under financial stress. When you're worried about today, your brain physically has less capacity to value tomorrow. This is why financial advice like just invest early or stop buying coffee feels almost insulting to someone who's financially stressed. It assumes they have the same cognitive relationship with the future that someone financially stable has. They don't. Their brain is in survival mode, and survival mode is built for today, not for 10 years from now. Here's what they don't teach you in school. Wealthy people don't just have more money, they have more mental margin. When you're financially comfortable, you don't have to make dozens of tiny stressful decisions every day. You can pay for convenience. You can absorb a surprise expense without it becoming a catastrophe. You can afford to think long term because today is handled. This mental margin compounds just like money does. More margin leads to less stress, leads to better decisions, leads to more opportunities seen, leads to more margin. Less margin leads to more stress, leads to worse decisions, leads to opportunities missed, leads to less margin. The truly dangerous thing about poverty is not just the lack of money. It's that poverty creates the exact mental conditions that make it harder to escape poverty. It's not a cycle of laziness. It's a cycle of cognitive overload. There's one more layer that almost nobody talks about. Psychologists have found that humans are deeply consistent with their self-image. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, your behavior will confirm that identity over and over without you even realizing it. This is called identity-based behavior. and it explains why giving people money alone rarely changes their financial situation long term. The behavior follows the belief. If someone grows up hearing, "We can't afford that," "Money doesn't grow on trees," or "Rich people are greedy," these aren't just phrases. They become the operating system for how that person relates to wealth. And you cannot out-earn an identity you haven't changed. The research shows that the most effective financial interventions don't start with budgeting tools or investment strategies. They start with changing how a person sees themselves in relation to money. So what do you actually do with this? The first thing, and this is important, is to stop judging yourself or others for poor financial decisions made under stress. The brain under financial pressure is not the same brain as one with stability. The playing field is not even. Second, if you're under financial stress right now, prioritize reducing cognitive load before anything else. Automate one thing, eliminate one decision, create even a tiny buffer. Not because it'll make you rich, but because it buys your brain margin. Third, start working on the story. What do you believe about money? What did you hear about it growing up? Those beliefs are silently driving your behavior every single day. The gap between people who escape financial stress and those who don't is not usually intelligence, not usually effort. It's almost always the story they tell themselves about what's possible. Change the story first. The behavior follows. If this made you think differently about money or the people around you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next one.